Hi, welcome to Popcorn Clicker Lesson 7. Today we will make sure that the number for popcorn per click also shows nicely up here. We'll do a little bit of upkeep to clean the screen up, and then we will look at making the pod and the grandpa look better. So first let's do a little bit of upkeep. I've noticed that every time we have to type the same number like popcorn total here and popcorn total here, if we make even the slightest spelling mistake, it will not work because those two strings will not be exactly the same. So if I add a space here, just a space, let me zoom in. This and this looks the same, but for Scratch this is not the same because it says, oh, this one has a space at the end and this one down here does not. Could also have the mistake that I had simply made a spelling error, or if I had written total with a capital T, it would not work. It has to be exactly the same. So to combat that, I'm going to take this piece of text and I'm going to put it into a variable. And then that variable we can use everywhere we would normally use that piece of text. So let me illustrate it. I'm going to make a variable. It's going to be for this sprite only. So it's going to start with a underscore. And then I'm going to call it popcorn total. That's the one we were looking at. Popcorn total. And for this sprite only. But now I have popcorn total looks a little bit like it has a number inside. So what I do in my code is I add a $sign here. $sign for me means this is just a string that I want to reuse so I don't have to write it every time. So it's for this sprite only, underscore, and it is just some words that we want to reuse. Popcorn total. And when I receive setup, I will set this word that I want to reuse. I will write popcorn total here. And now everywhere I want to use that string, so that would be down here in init and up here in when I start as a clone, I can just take that variable and put here. Now if I made a spelling mistake here, like this, it would still work because it would just compare this string. Are they both a reference to this I have here? Yes, they are, so it will work. The only thing that can happen now is if we use the same string more than one place. So let's look, I'm going to make the same thing for popcorn per second for this sprite only. Set popcorn per second to, and I want to set it to popcorn per second, like that. But if I forgot to change this and I wrote exactly the same thing I had as above here, now when I compare, they're gonna, here, if name is popcorn total, and because they are the same, it will say, oh, it is popcorn total down here. Popcorn per second, that's a better example. If name is popcorn per second, but what is popcorn per second? It is popcorn total, and I set that string here. It's a mess. So make sure that you write different things. It does not matter if you can spell or not. It does not matter if what you write in here makes any sense. The important part is that they're different. I need to go down here and put popcorn per second here as well. And now when I run the game, it still works just like before. We didn't do anything, we just made sure that I will not have spelling mistake bugs. So let's clean up a little bit. I want to just remove all the variables I don't want to look at anymore. So let's remove from my popcorn here. I want to remove these strings we just made. I want to remove popcorn total. We have that now. Popcorn per second I want to remove. Popcorn per click I just want to move up here for now. Pretty numbers index, so it starts with pretty numbers and colon. That means it belongs to the sprite that is pretty numbers, so let's hide that. And then let's go to variables and scroll down a little bit and hide these 3 lists. Now it looks better. See the game run again. The next thing I want to do is I want to have popcorn per click here. So let's look at that next. I'm going to make adding this number popcorn per click a challenge for you. So I want you to do all of it yourself. I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint here. We need to add some stuff to setup. So let's go in here, put some text and write, I need to do something in setup. See if we can make this a little bit bigger. Select this. Here we go. Need to do something in setup. I need to do something in when I start as a clone. When I start as a clone, we need to init popcorn per click. Init popcorn per click, popcorn, and we need to show popcorn per click. These are the 4 things we need to do, not necessarily in this order. Pause the video and try to see how far you can get. I will be back and give you some more hints if you get stuck. The challenge is to not think of, oh, I have to do all of this stuff and it's like too much for me to handle. What we need to do is just look at one small problem at a time. So let's look at setup. I have these 2 variables with the string for the 2 I already had. So I need to make a new one. So let's do that. It's the good first step. Popcorn per click for this write only. And I'm going to set popcorn per click to popcorn per click. That makes sense. I can see here, I need to init popcorn per click. Okay, so I need to create a new block for that because I don't have that yet. Let's look at init popcorn total and see what's going on. It runs without screen refresh. So I need to do the same. So I will just make a new block and I call it init popcorn per click and run without screen refresh. For now, I'm okay with it just being right here. And I can say init popcorn per click right here. Now I'm going to look at when I start as when I start as a clone. Let's move it up a little bit so we have room. It looks like I'm going to need an if block for popcorn per click. So let's duplicate this, put down here. If name equals popcorn per second, no. I'm working on popcorn per click right now. So let's change this to the string popcorn per click. Be careful you don't take this. This is the value of popcorn per click. This is my string popcorn per click. Oh, I need to call a block that I don't have. So let's create that so we at least can call something. Edit this one, say it does not run without screen refresh. Okay, so I just can make a block that I'm going to call show popcorn per click. Do not put a check mark here. Add this one here. I will put that one over here as well for now. And instead of show popcorn per second, I want to grab my show popcorn per click and move this one back in here. So now if I go here, I have finished these 2. So let's, oh, apparently I cannot do that. Can I do this? Yes, I can. So we'll do this. And we'll make this one white again. And this one white again. So I have finished these 2 already. They're completely done. Nothing else needs to be done. I just need to look at these. So for simplicity, I'm going to move them all the way down. let me zoom out so I can do this faster. Show here and init here, and I'll stop the game. So if you got this far, but you still missed to do what it's going to do down here, what we want to do is we want to copy this down, and then we want to change some things in this code to make sure that's the correct thing we do. So that is the next challenge if you didn't finish yet. As I said, we are going to copy this code down here. Instead of writing it all again, I'm just going to go up here and just going to duplicate and put it here. So let's zoom in on this piece of code. What does it say? It sets the name to popcorn per second, but I'm inside popcorn per click right now. So let's change that to popcorn per click. We add the name to our list of number owners. That is correct. I can show you. Number owner. I want to have 3 names in this list because I'm going to handle 3 numbers now. Then we add popcorn per second to number original. That doesn't seem right because we want to do something with popcorn per click. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to change it to the value popcorn per click, not the string up here, the value. And I'm going to add 0 to number pretty. We need a placeholder so our lists don't mess up. And then I'm going to create 11 clones of myself. 10 clones. That seems correct. If you did that, we need to do the same with popcorn per click. If you have not done that yet, pause the video and try to do it now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all the code from up here and I'm going to duplicate it down here. And then let's have a look at the code. Stop the game and zoom in. If char equals 0, that means I'm on the first clone. Then I want to go to a specific position and I want to do something. Else I'm going to do this. Okay, so there's a lot of code here. Let's try to split it up to some chunks. So this is the hat. This just means start here. That's cool. This block of code makes sure that we put the sprite that says popcorn per click. We put that on the screen. And this code down here handles the numbers. So let's do one of them first. I want to go to a specific position. Yes, but I don't want to go to the same position as up here. I want to move to the right. X is to the left and to the right. So let's change X. I did a little bit of experimentation and I think it looks good here. We set the size the same as before. We show and we switch costume to, we already have a costume. If I go in here and look, we already have this costume that says per click. So I just want to select that costume. So I just choose per click. And then we stop because this sprite is never going to change. We just want it on the screen. If you followed that but still haven't done this down here, pause the video and try to see if you can fix this code down here before you continue. Okay, we want to move the numbers down here. We want to move them to the right, just like we did with our label. So it's the same distance we want to move. I did some experimentation and I'm going to write -35 here. Set size to 10%. Still correct. We want the same size numbers as before. But now we don't want the same item in the lists here. Before we looked at, let's see if I can show my number pretty. There are 3 numbers. If I show the owner as well. First we have popcorn total. Then we have popcorn per second. And then we have popcorn per click. So popcorn total is number 1 in the list, per second is number 2, and click is number 3. So here when I try to get the numbers, I want to make sure that I get the 3rd number from number pretty. So it is item 3 and item 3. That was actually all we needed to do in the file piece of the code down here. We needed to move it a little bit to the right, and we needed to change which number are we trying to print on the screen. So with a little bit of luck, it should work. Let me remove all my numbers from the screen. Start again. So this one will just say 1. We don't have anything in our code that allows us to change this. Nothing in our game can change how many cookies we get per click. Let me test it by going to the backdrop here and say I want 15 instead. Let's restart again. So now it says 15. So it works. I'm going to change this back to 1. So now let's look at making these sprites look a little bit better. We're going to use a program called Krita, K-R-I-T-A, to make our images. This is not a course in how to use Krita, so this is just going to be a really quick introduction to how I did it, and you can do the same if you want. So I'm going to click New Image. I think we should use 700 as width right here and 240 as height and leave everything untouched. And I click Create. So this looks a little bit like Paint. I can zoom in and out with my scroll wheel here. The difference is here I have layers. Technically we also have that in Paint, but it doesn't really work. Here on the right I have layers. I can switch between them. So if I select a layer, make sure that it's unlocked. And now with my Paint tool here on the left, and on the right I choose a color, and on the top here I can choose the size, and I'm just going to draw something like that. Now I'm going to go to Paint Layer 1, choose a different color, and draw something else like that. The clever thing is now on the left, if I choose Move a Layer, I can move one of the layers, or I can select the other layer and I can move that layer. So I can move my layers independently, which will come in handy. I can also, here on the left, on the right, near my layer, there's an eye. I can hide a layer or show a layer. Underneath my layer selection here, there's a plus, and to the right of that plus there's a tiny drop-down menu. I will click that and I will add a paint layer. So let me delete those two layers that we just had, this one and this one. I don't want those anymore. That was just for testing. You can test a little bit if you want, but I'm just going to continue here. I'm going to remove, right click and remove, show this one. So I will call this one background. I will choose a color that I want as a background layer. So let's say I want maybe that one in my example here. I'm going to choose the paint bucket on the left, and I'm just going to click here. So now I have a background color. Let me create one more layer, a paint layer, and I'm going to call that border. On the left I will choose the rectangle tool. I think I will choose a different kind of pen down here, so maybe the spray pen, and a different color. Let's choose this color, and now I can draw a rectangle. I chose a way too big size of my pen. That looks okay. I'm gonna select it with my select tool here. Nope. I select it with this tool. I can move it, and I can resize it by dragging the corners just like we could in Scratch. If I select a corner to move, I can move it independently. If I press Shift on my keyboard now, I can only make it bigger in diagonal directions so that it scales correctly. That will become important in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this so it touches the edge here. Then I have sort of a fade in for borders, because part of it is outside the screen. I made sure over here on the right that I'm on the border layer when I do that. So now I can hide the border, or I can hide my background. Now I'm going to grab the picture of the pot I had. It's in our chat if you need to download it again. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to drag it in here. And when I let go, it asks, what do you want to do with this image? And I say, I want to insert it as a new layer. So automatically there's a layer generated over here with pot. I'm on that layer as well. So now when I use this select tool, I can move it and I can resize it. And now it becomes important with the shift, because I could resize it to be really strange, but if I hold shift at the same time, it will keep its proportions. And I will move it over here on the left, like that. Now I will select the text tool next to the arrow over on the left. Select the color. Let's say I want, let's choose something green. I'm going to draw a box here. When I do that, this window will pop up, and it's difficult to see, but the text is right here. So here I can write pot, and I click save, and it's shown right here. So let's close this window again. I can select this one, move it around, make it bigger. Let's hold shift at the same time so it keeps its proportions. So as I said, this is just an example, so I'm just going to throw stuff in here. In my code, I'm going to have the number here for how many I own. I don't want it here because we're going to have buildings that have a lot longer name. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to have what is the price. My price, I want to include a popcorn. So I'm going to insert that as a new layer. Going to select it, make it smaller, move it, make it smaller, move it, and make it smaller. So I'm going to put it here. And here to the right of that, I'm going to put all of my, I'm going to put the price of my building. Let's rename these over here. So this is going to be pot name, and this is going to be price. Yes, just price. Now I can click File, Export. I want to export this as something we can use in Scratch. In the file type, save as type, I need to choose JPEG. That's the one we want to use. And then I can write something here. Let me make sure I'm in the correct folder. And I'm going to click Pod, and I'm going to write demo as well. And I click Save. This window, it has the correct settings, don't worry about that. So now I have created the image for the pod. Now if I wanted to create the grandpa as well, I don't want to start all over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my grandpa picture and throw in here as a new layer on top of everything else. Select him, make him smaller, make sure he's about the same size as the pot. That looks okay. And I'm going to write some new text here. And let's write grandpa. It's difficult to see because of the text on top of the text color on top of this window. Save. So now I have my grandpa text here. I can move that up here on top of my pot text. I'm going to make it about the same size, like that. The point is now I can go over on the right and I can hide the pot and the pot name, and I can export my grandpa. Later, if I want to change the background color or the border or this icon down here, I can go in and I can fix that, and then I can just hide my grandpa and grandpa name and show the pot and the pot name. And I can do that for all our buildings, so they all get the same size and the same border if I want to make some changes. Once I'm done with the way I want, I'm going to click File, and I'm going to click Save. I want to save this project as this is a KRA file, so Krita file. When I save that, it will save all of my layers over here as well, so that next time I open it, I can go and continue where I were. And this is the difference from Paint. Paint will collapse all of these into a single layer, so when we reopen, it's a complete mess. So if you want, you can make your own building sprites. If you want to use mine, that's fine as well. That was all for this week. I will see you next week.